Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar organized by Center for Peace and Justice, BRAC University, to mark World Refugee Week 2026. Our session today is titled Voice of Courage, Education for Peace, Justice, and Better Tomorrow. We are honored to have diverse speaker panel today, including two of our inspiring youth leaders who are joining us from Cox's Bazar. Also, we are streaming live on our Facebook page. We highly encourage all of our viewers to drop your thoughts, reflections, and your questions in the comment section. We will have a dedicated Q&A session. We definitely address your questions.
Yes.
And without any further ado, I would like to hand it over to Mr. Shahriar Sadat sir to introduce our panel members and lead the webinar today. So, sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mosaddeq. A very warm welcome to everyone for this webinar on the Refugee Day 2026. It's a Saturday, and all the speakers who have made time on a Saturday, we really appreciate your time. As my colleague Mosaddeq has mentioned, that the theme is courage. It's about courage to find resilience when you are in a displaced situation. It's the courage to dream big. It's the courage to invest your time into positive things to build your life. And we at Center for Peace and Justice, BRAC University, had been part of the humanitarian crisis in Cox's Bazar, trying to support both host and refugee community. And we are very privileged to have partnership with Bard College, New York, and also with UNHCR and other UN bodies to continue to do our work. I'm very grateful to have very diverse speaker groups, Mizanur Rahman, the Refugee Relief and Repatriation Commissioner, Additional Secretary, Bangladesh Government. Mr. Mizan he's currently attending another program, and he will join us shortly. We also have Dr. Dowland, the Registrar of BRAC University, and he is the co-chair of UN Millennium Campus Network of the Civic Learning Council. We also have Dr. Granato, Associate Vice President for Global Initiatives at Bard College and Director of the Hubs for Connected Learning Initiative. We are very excited to have two of our refugee learners and leaders. First, let me introduce Ms. Bibi Xiang. She is the youth leader for Peace Café in one of the camps in Kutupalong. And we have Mr. Mohammed Numan, who is an undergraduate student of Bard College Global Degree Program, and also a graduate of the Refugee Higher Education Access Program, which is which CPG implements with the support from active support from Bard College and UNHCR. So let me move on to our session, and I'll bring in the speakers. As you know that we have only 1 hour. So speakers, I'll be a drill sergeant. Sometimes I'll exercise the right to operate the guillotine on you and fix you a time to speak. First, I'll go to Mohammed Numan, who is currently studying in the undergrad program of Bard College online degree program. Numan, you have been living in camps, and please share how is your daily life and overall situation for a refugee youth in the camps, and please tell us from your perspective how access to education is important for you. Over to Numan.
Okay, sir. Yeah. Thank you very much for inviting me and for giving me the opportunity to share our experiences. Speaking as a Rohingya refugee and as a young person living in the camps, I can say that life is challenging here in many ways. Of course, we receive humanitarian support, but for young people, life is about much more than food and shelter. We think about our futures, we want to study, build careers, support our families, and we want to become responsible members of our society. Unfortunately, those opportunities are still very limited here in the camps. Even with these challenges, many young people here do not give up. Like some work with NGOs and INGOs, some join vocational training programs here, like caregiving, plumbing, tailoring, and small engine mechanics, and more. Others teach in community-based high schools, or some others also volunteers in different community-based activities. But at the same time, many young people cannot find meaningful opportunities here. When people lose hopes, some end up taking a strong paths. Security is also a concern here, and sometimes even traveling from one camp to another becomes very risky. For us here in the refugee camps, you all know that education is one of the biggest challenges here. Our community, as well as the humanitarian organizations, have worked very hard to keep education alive in our camps. We have some community-based schools where Rohingya teachers teach the Myanmar curriculums from primary levels up to grade 12. Shiren also learn in the learning centers supported by the humanitarian organizations working in the camps. Still, the biggest problem is access to the recognized education. Access to recognized education is very limited. For many years, students study without having access to recognize exam boards. They do not have the chance to sit for exams under any recognized board examinations. Recently, some Rohingya teachers created Examination Board of Rohingya Refugees (EBRRs) just to recognize what Rohingya students do and what they are learning, and to particularly organize transparent examinations in the refugee camps.
Numan,
I
thank
think.
you. Numan, sorry to interject. Can I just move on because we have limited time? Can I just take you to next point is that you have graduated under the REAP program, the Refugee Higher Education Access Program. Am I correct?
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yes.
how that program has boosted your confidence and how that has helped you to move to the next stage. If you could tell us briefly about it. Over to you.
Thank you, sir, for the questions. Basically, I'd like to answer these questions by sharing my own story. For example, before joining REAP, I was working for an international organization in the camps. I was thankful to have a job, but I was not sure what my future would look like. Like many Rohingya students, my education stops after we fled Myanmar in 2017. It was like going to university felt like something I could only dream about. When I joined REAP programs, I felt like I was finally moving towards my dreams. The programs gave me knowledge and skills that I had never had the chance to learn before. I could improve my academics, English, academics, writing, study skills, digital literacy, professional communications, science literacy, and critical thinking. One of the best parts of REAPS I usually talk about is learning with international students through Open Society University Network UZUN, which is now Tier 21 Global Higher Education Alliance for 21st Century. For the first time, I was part of a global classrooms. that experience stands the way I saw myself. I used to see myself only as a refugee. After joining the Global Student Network, I started seeing myself as a university student and someone who has something valuable to contribute to the community. If we talk about courage it has given to us, for me, courage does not mean not being afraid. It means for me continuing to move forward even when the future is still uncertain. REAP helped me to believe that my circumstances do not define my potentials. The program also gave me confidence. Before Refugee Higher Education Access Program REAP, I was not comfortable speaking in public or sharing my ideas. Today, I can teach in community-based schools, speak at seminars like this, and advocate for my community. But life in the refugee camp is still very difficult. We still face uncertainty every day. However, REAP did not remove those challenges or obstacles, but it changed how I look at them. Now, instead of focusing only on the barriers and obstacles here, I now focus on the opportunity that education can create for us. The greatest gift REAP has given to me is hope. After graduating from the program, some of our brothers and sisters receive a scholarship to study in the Philippines. Their success has inspired many of us. As for me, I always dream of going to university. Today, although I cannot study on a physical campus, I am pursuing an online associate degree with BART College in New York. A dream that once seems impossible has become a reality today for me. So when I look
Numan,
back,
thank you. Numan, thank you. I'll stop you here. And I would go to Dr. Rebecca Granato. If you have any brief comment, since we have been you're a very active mentor, active guide for all of our students. Rebecca, do you have any brief comment about the REAP program and the very positive things that Numan has highlighted? I like the part where he said that it gives you hope. And as we believe that it's the education program is almost therapeutic for many of them for the things that they go through every day in their lives. Over to you, Rebecca, if you have a couple of minutes to make any comment.
Great. Is my connection okay? Can you hear me okay? Okay, great. So yeah, I mean, I think I wanted to pick up on a point that Numan made, where he talked about how before joining the Higher Education Access Program, he felt like he didn't know what his future was going to be. And I think when we're talking about the theme of courage, I think that that is something that we see throughout all of the different contexts in which we run the REAP program. So I've been working in refugee higher education really since 2008. So it's been close to 2 decades. And that, lack of knowledge of what's coming next is something that we see is pervasive, whether we're thinking about the Middle East, Africa, South Asia, Southeast Asia. So I would say that, building on what Numan said, this is something we really try to do with REAP as well as with some of the other programs we run in refugee settings and in other crisis contexts, is really try to encourage students and young people to feel like they are students, to kind of embody that identity and to realize that getting an education for an education's sake may not feel like enough in the moment, but that they have to kind of work towards it and continue to kind of just hang on until the next step can be identified. So that can often be quite draining for young people. It's a big challenge. And that, I think, is the number one piece of the puzzle that takes the courage to kind of hang on, not knowing what's next, knowing that maybe you're in the moment getting an education, but you don't know what is coming next. And for many of our students, something does come next, like Numan pointed out. 70% of our students go directly into employment, and another 30 to 40% go into scholarships for full degree programs. So there is great success for these students, but it's not certain. It's not certain like it is for many of the rest of us.
No, thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Numan. I'll move to Bibi Jan. She's a youth leader, and she actually, I would say, encourages and inspires a lot of young women to do positive things for the for the society and for their community. Bibi Jan, one question to you is, could you share your daily experience in the camps? I mean, kind of what kind of challenges that you face, and also please talk about your inner courage. What has motivated you to come to do what you are doing? Over to you, Bibi Jan.
Thank you so much. Your wonderful question. Hello, good afternoon. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I'm honored to have participated in this meaningful discussion. My name is Bibi Zeng. I am from Kutupalong, Lamashkia, Cam 1 West, Block C14, Coxbazar, Bangladesh. I am a youth leader and active member of Peace Café under the Center for Peace and Justice, CPJ, BRAC University. Through community engagement and youth initiative, I work promote peace building, education, youth empowerment, and positive social change within my Rohingya refugee community. Um, a bit about my personal journey. Living and working in a refugee camp present many challenges, particularly for young women, including cultural barrier, limited opportunity, resource constraint, and the ongoing uncertainty of displacement. Despite these difficulties, I remain inspired by the resilience, strength, and determination of my community. What motivates me most of witnessing young people gain confidence, knowledge, and leadership skill. Their growth reinforces my belief that even a small action can create meaningful and lasting change. It gives me hope that together we can build a more peace building, inclusive, and resilient future. And now, how I am involved in community leadership and mentorship. That is through my involvement with Peace Cafe, I mentor youth, identify community challenges, and develop practical community-driven solutions. Alhamdulillah, together we successfully designed two capstone projects previously. The first one is about our Rohingya culture, heritage, and awareness initiative, a project dedicated to preserving Rohingya culture, traditional, historical language, and collective memories while promoting cultural awareness among younger generation. The second one is it's inclusive, safe learning and a skill hub for all, a project that focuses on providing access to basic education like skill, vocational training, and income generating opportunity to promote self-resilience, opportunity to responsible confidence and resilience. This initiative have empowered participants to become more engaged, confident, and proactive leaders. They have strengthened social cohesion deeply to their communities, even in challenging circumstances. If I have mentioned about the purpose of Peace Cafe and our vision, through Peace Cafe, we hope to build a stronger community connection, promote mutual understanding, empower young leaders, preserve our cultural identity, and create sustainable opportunity for learning and development. Our vision is to foster a peaceful, inclusive, and resilient community where every young person has the opportunity to contribute, lead, and thrive. I firmly believe that investing in education mentorship for building resilience and creating sustainable opportunity for Rohingya community. Thank you for your time and attention. I look forward to learning from your experience and sharing our journey with you.
Thank you, Bibijan. Thank you so much. Just for all the viewers here, for the audience, that Center for Peace and Justice started the Peace Cafe initiative back in 2018, and at the university level. And I'll come to Dr. Dowland and ask him for a quick bite on the Peace Cafe journey. But just for the audience, that the Peace Cafes in universities have been very sustainable. Universities have taken them as extracurricular activities, and also we have now set up 10 Peace Cafes in Cox's Bazar in refugee camps, and see how and they are working greatly. Dr. Dave Dowland, if you could highlight the work of Peace Cafes at BRAC University, and how they are performing, and just quickly in 2 minutes.
Oh, right. Well, I remember when you launched the Peace Cafe, and at the time, it was young people, significantly young men as well as young women, coming together to work on social projects, particularly with an interest in gender equality. But it quickly expanded beyond that. And one of the most interesting things about the Peace Cafes as well was that it was training and developing and bringing confidence to these young people so they could be agents for the construction of their communities. And indeed, at the time of the national uprising, we heard them reporting back to us that they felt so much more confident about bringing a constructive approach to their communities at that very difficult time. And what is also very interesting to see about these Peace Cafes is how they have developed in other universities, and even there's potential to bring them into schools and colleges as well. So you can say cells of young people who are interested in advancing social development, making a contribution to society, and helping to build a sense of cohesion in their communities all over the place. There may be a potential for international development here as well. So it's a very encouraging development, and we hope to see it continuing to expand, and very good to see some of the refugee communities taking part in this as well. Thank you, Sharia.
Thank you, Dave. And I'm glad that you have mentioned about international development. I hope that we can have a fruitful conversation about using the Millennium Campus Network to take the Peace Cafes in other countries as well. Just for all of your information, that Peace Cafes, we are also setting up 11 Peace Cafes in 11 districts in the southeast of the country, and those Peace Cafes will be based in communities and doing positive things. I'll now move on to Dr. Rebecca Granato on basically we want to tap on your extensive experience globally in very fragile contexts, and please tell us what is the kind of, I would say, current landscape of access to refugee education or access to education of refugees, and in light of UNHCR's 20 I think the overall commitment of 15 by 30, am I right? 15 by 30 commitment. Where are we now globally? Over to Rebecca.
Yeah, so back in 2019, the UNHCR established a global goal of trying to achieve a 15% enrollment of refugees in post-secondary education by 2030. And this doesn't just include
I think Rebecca having internet connectivity issues. Rebecca, can you hear me? We can't hear you now. We see you, no, can't hear you.
Full BA programs. It also includes that, associate's degrees, diplomas, any can. Yes, can you hear me okay?
We hear you. We lost you for 40 seconds.
Hello? Oh, okay. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm based in
for 40 seconds, and you just started with explaining the 1530 initiative by UNHCR. You can start from there. Restart from there.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm in Nairobi and the internet is not always great here, so apologies.
No problem.
So back in 2019, the UNHCR established a global goal of trying to enroll 15% of refugees in higher education by 2030. Now, at that time, it was really low. If I recall correctly, it was like 1 or 2% of refugees were reaching higher education. And that doesn't just include bachelor's degrees. It also includes, technical education, vocational training, diplomas. So at this point in 2026, we're only 4 years away from 2030, and the numbers are still not great. We're looking at around 9% of refugees enrolled in higher education, but I want to qualify that number because that 9% also includes Ukrainian refugees who have been displaced to Europe, and many of them have remained enrolled in higher education back in Ukraine through a virtual connection or have immediately joined European universities. So that number is not really reflective of contexts like the ones we're really talking about, like Bangladesh, like Africa, like the Middle East. And this number of 9% is really disturbing, even though it's also higher than really what it is in a lot of these other places. Because if you look at higher education enrollment globally for the non-displaced community, you're looking at more like 48%. So it's a big gap. It's a huge gap. And also, just to kind of emphasize this point further, when you look at refugee camp settings and also urban contexts, the global average is around 70% of refugees make it through primary school. It drops off around secondary to around 45 or 46%, and then it plummets when it gets to post-secondary to this 9% figure. So it's a really, really unfortunate and disturbing picture.
Thank you, Rebecca. And I'll just quickly to add that according to UNHCR 2025 data, up to December 2025, there were 117 millions, 117.8 million displaced population globally. And out of that, 68 million were internal displaced population, and then others were the force displaced, the 35 million. But that's December 2025. After that, the world has also experienced there were war between Pakistan and Afghanistan, also in Iran, and also in Lebanon. And we also know that some part of Africa is also heating up with new conflicts, which means that post December 2025, the number of displaced population has gone up, which also means that the challenges to achieve those targets is also very, very, very difficult. Rebecca, what are the international networks of universities? We know that different universities are coming together, that they are putting their efforts, their time to kind of support refugees come to higher education. What are the kind of initiatives, and what are the kind of critical systemic gaps in internationally to achieve those?
Yeah, I mean, there are a number of networks that are trying to come together to build systems, to encourage university partners to work together so that they don't feel like they're operating alone in a vacuum in a space that can be a bit challenging to operate in. Let me give an example of a network that is often not talked about very often, but affects our students who are coming out of the Bangladesh camps. There's a network of universities in the Philippines that have been working really hard on building up what are called complementary pathways, where refugees can go for higher education and also obtain resettlement. So they get permanent residency or citizenship in a country. So that's a network that's kind of up and coming and is doing really important work. There are other networks that are starting to form now, like the Global University Academy, which is aiming at offering short-term certificates through online learning. And then eventually the hope is that there will be degrees. And that's a network that's kind of building right now, which is primarily European and sort of global North universities, but with a real intention to bring in universities from across the globe. in terms of critical gaps, I mean, I think the most critical gap right now is funding. The funding landscape has shifted so dramatically. And we're in a place right now where development funding and humanitarian assistance have fallen off a cliff. And I think as networks start to evolve and form, we as actors interested in supporting this space need to think about new and creative ways to address these gaps, because I think the days of, billions of dollars of humanitarian assistance, it's over. So now we need to be thinking about other approaches like impact investing and microloans and other ways to ensure that we can achieve that 15 by.
Thank you, Rebecca. I have got one more question for you. Just before I go that, I would say that those who are listening, if you have any question, please put your question in the comment, and our team will pass it on to the speakers. If you want any particular speaker to answer, to respond to your question, please mention the name, and this would actually help us to respond to questions. And I'll request our colleagues actually to post the questions in the chat box for our speakers to respond to. Rebecca, as you know, that our webinar title is about education leading to peace and justice, and also kind of looking at education as an instrument to talk about courage, to talk about partnerships, to talk about peace building. How do you see that these universities partnerships are contributing to that kind of peace building, and also helping students to have the courage, as you have heard our two young colleagues, they are actually, they have talked about how much courage they needed in the given context. So how do you see these partnerships are helping? And if you could give example from other contexts like Kenya or Jordan or any other context, that would be great for our listeners. Over to you.
Yeah, I mean, let me try to answer that question by focusing on Kenya. Kenya's a really protracted refugee crisis, dating back to the early 90s. So many young people have been born in the camp, and generations of young people have been born in the camp. So Kenya's a situation where there have been many different university partners over the past 30 years that have tried to provide educational opportunity. In terms of how different universities try to do it, I mean, I think that, ensuring that education is trauma-informed, that education is flexible and adaptable, that refugees, prior learning and also their experience on the ground is taken into account. For example, in admissions processes, that there's a recognition of everything that they've done in addition to the formal education, which is often quite interrupted. I think that in terms of moving forward, we know from data, global data, that every single year of interrupted education has a negative impact on not only financial self-reliance, but also a significant impact on things like stability and different risks, increased extremism, susceptibility to extremism, to violence. So when universities are building programs, I think keeping young people engaged, even if it's not a full degree that can be offered, keeping them engaged and continuously talking to them about where that opportunity, even if it's a limited opportunity, can lead. So in short, being mindful of building pipelines and not just one-off opportunities, I think is critical. And that often means universities and other actors like labor pathways providers working together to ensure that students and young people can see that there is a progression. It's not certain, it's not definite, but it's being mindfully thought of by the people designing.
Thank you, Rebecca. As Bibijan was talking about peace cafes, about and the capstone work that they're doing, I would quickly go to the Mufakhar Islam Tawfiq. Are you there? If you can quickly update on the Peace Cafe initiative in the camps, if you could just give us 2 minutes update of Peace Cafe activities in camps. Over to you.
Thank you, Shoaib. Yeah, I think, the CPJ Peace Cafe model that we are implementing in different universities in Bangladesh, it is a quite like role model and model project for engaging the student and youth into the civic education and, the learning by doing activities. So through that civic education program, we basically engage the community youth and the civic leaders for a kind of 6-month-long journey. And in that journey, they basically, identify their problem from the communities, and then they, conceive the issues and challenges, and then they developed the action plan that is we call, community action project CAPS on different issues, like mostly relevant to the community immediate day-to-day challenges. So in that process, they develop community project and implement those projects in the camp.
How
So
does it contribute
this is
to Tawfiq, how does it contribute to resilience building, enhancing their
that's
resilience?
right. That's why I'm going to tell, like, through this learning and doing and activities, community events and organizations, and also implementing the community project, they are basically developing, not only contributing to the community for their development, but also developing their own leadership and then ownership on the activities and to the community, and fostering the community resilience in the camp. Like, they are engaged with the waste management activity, so in their community. So that is basically contributing to the community resilience, because the challenges we are facing for fund sinking and funding scarcity, and also the very limited project is being implemented in the camp. So those community initiatives building their own resilience, supporting to their community, at the same time developing their own leadership and continuing their activities. So through this journey, they are developing their own community resilience. That's what we are developing. But the Peace Cafe is acting as a platform where they are getting organized, generating ideas, and developing action project and implementing in the camp. So what CPG is doing in this part, we are just providing technical support, mentoring, guidance, and we do not provide like any funding or anything, just mentoring and technical support and guidance.
Thank you.
Implementing this project.
Thank you, Tawfiq. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm moving to Dr. Dave Dowland. Dr. Dave, BRAC University sits at a very interesting intersection, I would say, as the leading institution within Bangladesh. And the Bangladesh is the country which is currently hosting a huge number of refugee population. So how the university is engaging on this issue in terms of research, partnership, and student programming, and in terms of higher education. Over to you, Dr. Dave.
Well, of course, you yourselves are at the center of this. We have the Refugee Studies Unit in the Rohingya camps themselves in Cox's Bazar, which is a wonderful asset for all of us. And it brings what is going on in Cox's Bazar right to the center of the interactions that are going on here. And of course, we're linked to some 16 other countries in the world as well through the BRAC movement. So we have this inherent international connection to be a university which is at the intersection of the worlds of international development and higher education. But just thinking about some of the things that have been going on recently, alongside CPJ, we have the Institute of Educational Development, which has been doing a great deal of work on early years education, trauma-based education, the use of play for education. And they've just received a very large stimulus from the Lego Foundation, $50 million, which will enable them to extend their work with young refugees to another 400,000 young people across Uganda, as well as Bangladesh. Rebecca was talking earlier on about the importance of scaling up, and that's a good example of where resources are going in to help scale up what have been very impactful initiatives to a very large size, actually. So that's quite an encouragement to us. I think another thing that I wanted to appreciate, Mohammed Numan was telling us about his experience of the REAP initiative. And this shows how we can learn from what's happening in Cox's Bazar and then see its application on an international scale. So you talk about, for instance, 1.5 million refugees in Bangladesh, and then think about all the other displaced and underserved populations. What I think you've learned from the REAP initiative is how young people whose education has been so disrupted can actually be resilient enough to accelerate their learning if you take the right sort of approach. And that acceleration of learning is a very interesting thing that tells us about how you develop really effective teaching and learning for all sorts of people who've been through similar trauma and disruption in their earlier lives. And we're seeing similar initiatives, as you know, going on in Jordan and Lebanon, the Al Sama initiative, alongside the REAP initiative. So it's a classic thing for a university to do, to be able to bring together all those networks and those insights and to be something of a clearinghouse for them as well. The other thing also I think then I'd mention as well would be the Get Engaged conference that we had just last week. And there were some refugees with us who were at the core of that discussion about leadership, people from some 15 countries discussing their contribution to society. Students from Al-Quds University, we all feel so much solidarity for what is happening in Palestine, and there they are driving on in an extremely difficult situation with the university acting as a forum for them. And then perhaps the final example I could give many, many examples, but another one would be from the UN-linked Millennium Campus Network that you've mentioned a couple of times, but they picked up on the work going on with the peace cafes. They are aware of members of refugee communities who are tackling social problems in their own communities. And we want to look at how we can bring some of those insights and that contribution into the wider network. It's a huge network. Over 76,000 students have applied for free mentorship through the Millennium Campus Fellowships. And we want very much to bring refugee insights to bear as refugees design solutions to the problems facing their communities, to learn from them as well, very much in partnership. So that is an extended university network that BRAC is part of. I'll pause there and give you a chance to come back.
Thank you, Dave. We are delighted to say that Mr. Mizanur Rahman, Mr. Mohammed Mizanur Rahman, the
Yes.
Refugee Relief and Repatriation Commissioner, Additional Secretary, Bangladesh Government, has joined us. And I hope to see his camera turned on as well, so that we all see him. Dave, just before I move on to the next speaker, quickly asking you a question that you know that for refugees in camps everywhere in the world, they don't have access to traditional classrooms like universities, and how would you encourage youth in camps to still keep on engaging and to attend different other versions of online or offline classrooms?
Yeah. Well, we have tremendous interest in this. All the opportunities there are, from hybrid learning, the online technologies that are developing, the organization, the Commonwealth of Learning across 56 countries is profoundly interested in that, and we're working with them. And indeed, it's hybrid learning that you've been used with the REAP initiative recently. So it's not just online, it's online plus opportunities for study groups, people actually in a room together, encouraging each other, which we can optimize. So a lot of potential through that.
Thank you, Dave. Mr. Mizanur Rahman, may I request you to turn on your camera and also your
Career bhai, I'm connected from my house. So
okay, you're connected from your home.
So I was in Chittagong University. So there was a
Okay.
program on refugee, by the law department. It was a very big program. So I just rushed to my home to be connected with you.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to hear your voice. Just give me 1 minute. There is a question, and I think I'll actually go to Dr. Rebecca, and I'll read out the question, and I'd go to Dr. Rebecca Granato to respond to that question. The question is, as everyone knows, many children and youth from the camps do not have access to equal education, quality education, because they are of refugee status. What sort of practical actions should governments or advanced higher educational institutions and international organizations can take to ensure that no one is left behind with this access? Rebecca, I'm giving you 1.5 minutes to respond, and then I'll move to Mizan bhai. Over to you, Rebecca.
Great. I actually responded in the chat, but now I realize not everyone can see the chat. So I think what I said in response to this question is that, I think it's very important that INGOs, educational actors, and governments work together and coordinate. That's what all the evidence shows across all of these global contexts. And we definitely see evidence of that happening in Bangladesh. I mean, the government has been increasingly collaborative over the past 7 years that I've been working in the camps, and it's really allowed for educational access to really open up. And I would also emphasize again a point I made earlier, that when we're thinking about these collaborations between these very different actors, governments, INGOs, and educational institutions, it's really important to think about building a full pipeline. We need to think about primary, secondary, higher ed, and then even be mindful of what we're encouraging students to do after for self-reliance. So we really, even if we're higher ed actors, we need to be thinking about the before and after too.
Thank you, Rebecca. I'm now moving to Mr. Mizanur Rahman. A quick question for you, Mizanur, is that your office is kind of have the huge responsibility of governing and also maintaining meeting all different type of operational needs, and also given that global funding landscape and things are becoming increasingly difficult. What are your priorities in coming year in terms of education? If you could talk about, I'm not asking about others. What are the priorities in terms of education for refugees, and how, please, if you could speak a little bit about that. Over to you.
Okay, so thank you very much, Sharir Bhai, for connecting me in a very good conversation so far. I missed the previous conversation. However, thankful to you that I'm connected. So regarding the education, we have been working from government side, since BRAC University and also BRAC NGO both are connected with the with government in terms of refugee education in Cox's Bazar since 2018. Initially, it was learning competency framework before launching the Myanmar curriculum. It was with the help of BRAC, and UNICEF was leading that sector. Finally, government allowed the Myanmar curriculum, and Myanmar curriculum now a student can study Myanmar curriculum after 12th grade. But the problem is that we are not assessing their education, and we are not providing them any certificate. So without having an assessment authority in the camp, how can we provide this certificate? So students are now actually being frustrated because of not being evaluated after completion of their education. So that's very important. Now we are working with UNICEF and other actors. How can we actually provide some sort of certification? I don't know whether it will be useful, but I have in my mind that we will issue some sort of certificate from education sector signed by the sector lead and also by RRRC. Whether it will be recognized by anyone, but we'll provide something. That's my understanding. And previously, I had discussion with UNICEF and other lead that we must provide some report card at least after completion of every session. So that is being implemented, but completion after graduation. So this is now one thing. Another thing is that since we cannot provide certificates, so students are not very interested to continue their study. That's why dropout is very, very high in the camp. So for that, actually, my intention is to launch some technical vocational TVET education, if possible, by any NGO, INGO, or any actor, government or non-government. I'm very much open to welcome them here. So recently, I had some discussion with one INGO and one embassy in Dhaka who are interested to provide some vocational courses. So that is the another way. Vocational means some vocational have been provided by UNICEF-led livelihood sector, but beyond that even some digital learning, AI learning, and that sort of that can capacitate the youth to be even freelancer to have some income. Of course, there should be some another entitlement, particularly access to internet and access to monetary transaction. That is also another important thing. So government has already decided to provide Rohingya the SIM card, by their own, ID cards. So once SIM card is provided, I believe that will be a kind of entitlement to have access to even electronic, wallet or electronic money system. That World Bank is also working for that. So what my understanding and my policy is that I'm open for education, and I'm also advocating, Sharir by BRAC University at Dhaka level, uh, uh, to have some discussion with the policymakers at Dhaka level, so that the students who are interested to go for tertiary education even, because without education, this community will be a burden and vulnerable for themselves and for Bangladesh when they they are living here. Once they go back their home, and also there will be the burden. So education, I believe there should not be any bar, should not be any obstacle. That is my understanding, and anyone can come to me. I am open for
Thank
that.
you.
I will
Thank
be
you, Mizanur bhai.
advocating with government even, since
Yeah.
though I'm a government officer, but still I will be advocating for that.
Thank you, Mizanur bhai. I'll come to you with another question, but I'm just opening up to Dr. Rebecca for half a minute if you want to add anything for our engagement, the Bard College's engagement with the Office of the RRRC and how the support is going on. Over to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would just emphasize again what I said before, that, I think it's been really welcome, the support that the Bangladesh government has been giving over the past, several years. I mean, it's a radical shift, and it's really wonderful to see that, there's a real willingness with this government to encourage young people to to follow a path and a real thoughtfulness around where the blockages are. As he just explained, as the RRRC just explained, you know, the idea that young people can't get any kind of formal certification from the Myanmar curriculum is definitely it's a challenge. And it's great to see that the government is really helping think this through so that we can all work together on building this pipeline as educational actors, INGOs, and the government and UN agencies.
Thank you, Rebecca. Dr. Dave Dowland, can I just bring you in for half a minute? If you have anything to add about the engagement with the government and especially with the Office of the RRRC about BRAC University's engagement in Cox's Bazar.
Well, I think as a university, we profoundly appreciate the relationship with RRRC and how they have supported us in trying to take as a resourceful approach as we can. And so some of the work that's going on in the camps in consequence to that are really potentially groundbreaking. I just mentioned just now the REAP initiative and what it is teaching, we begin to learn from this about how you actually have effective education for all sorts of displaced and underserved groups. So there's so much more that we can do with RRRC, and thank you very much to them for working with us.
Thank you, Dave. We have last 3 minutes of the webinar. I would come to Mizan Bhai with a quick question, and then I will will end this webinar. Before I go to Mizan Bhai, just to say that there are a lot of Rohingya participants youth have joined the webinar through Facebook, and they have conveyed their profound thanks to everyone for joining and having this discussion. So reflecting on global issues, and Mizan Bhai, how do you see youth-led initiatives contributing more in social cohesion within the camps? If you could share your thoughts on that.
Rightly, you pointed out the future of this community is in the hand of the youth that I am blaming. I believe I have a lot of interaction with them, and today even I met some of the youth from the camp who joined this conference, also organized by Chittagong University Law Faculty. So the future of this community definitely in the hand of these young people. If they understand their life, their purpose of the refuginess, and if they understand their country, their political architecture in place in Rakhine State, and I believe one day they can go back their home. So for that, actually, they need education. They need different type of education, and they must be in line with the Bangladesh government policy, keeping themselves within the disciplined way. The vulnerability is that the youth are increasingly involved with the antisocial activities across the border, and because of their ignorance, because of their lack of education back their home, they did not have any education, and because of being idle in the camp for quite long time, they are now involved with the all negative coping mechanisms. So I believe the youths are aware of their community rights of their own and individual and community, and they can understand the political the scenario of their country. I believe they can pave their own future. That's my understanding. And already there is a lot good initiatives. Sharir, you know that some schools being run by Rohingya youth in the community, and in the morning, in the afternoon, they run a good number of community schools, and their quality is to some extent even better than the NGO run school in the please don't mind anyone with NGO run schools, but yes, sometimes I found that the community youth run schools quality are better than even NGO run schools. So I believe they will come up, they will take the responsibility of their community, and they will lead from the front, and one day inshallah they will go back their home. That's my understanding and dream.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We are right at 4 p.m. May I thank all of you, the panel of speakers, Bibi Jan, Mohammed Numan, Dr. Dave Dowland, Dr. Rebecca Granato, and Mr. Mizanur Rahman, all of you for taking your time on a weekend and speak on this very important issue of education. And we believe that the courage to invest in the future is the most sustainable solution to the refugee crisis. Thank you all. With that, I'm ending this webinar.
Thank you.